What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC. Today we're going to be taking a look at a new lineup of tools coming from Kansept. Kansept reached out to let me know they launched a brand new branch called Kansept EDC. And Kansept EDC is a new lineup separate from the Kansept Knives lineup that they're going to be utilizing to launch tools, fidgets, and really anything in the EDC realm not related to knives. So really excited about the possibilities there. Going to give them the opportunity to explore a lot of different types of products that they haven't offered in the past. But right out the gate, they're launching with 5 models, and each of those models has 5 or 6 different configurations. So really extensive lineup to choose from right out of the gate. They went ahead and sent me all of the tools from the new lineup. They didn't send over the fidgets, so if you're interested in seeing those, specifically the roller or the bolt fidget, I will make sure to leave a link to Kansept EDC down in the description of the video. Not an affiliate link or anything, but since these products aren't going to be on the Kansept Knives website, that's where you're going to find the products in this video as well as the fidgets. To the best of my knowledge, they're not offering these through retailers yet either, so Kansept EDC is the only place to buy them currently, although that may change in the future. So let's get right into it. We'll start with the product here on the left. My favorite of the packaging. You can see really cool packaging with this pass-through hole that passes not only through the box, but through the tool itself. There is an image of the tool on here, slide-out drawer on the end. So kind of a cool, interesting package design. Let's move that out of the way. I already have everything unpackaged and grab on to our actual tool. And this is the Kansept EDC PryMate, spelled P-R-Y-M-A-T-E, so kind of a play on words there with PryMate. And as you can imagine with that name, the main functionality of this is going to be the pry tool, although it offers a lot of other functionality as well. This is designed by Sebastian Irawan. It's about 5.09 inches in overall length, made out of titanium and priced at $43.58 over on the Kansept EDC website. So I think a pretty affordable titanium pry bar, especially for one this size. If you are on the fence about whether or not you want to carry a pry bar, I think this is a good one to try out because it offers that pry functionality, great ergos, and an affordable price point for a titanium pry bar. So we'll start with the most obvious functionality here, which is the pry function. One thing I like that they did with the pry portion of this tool is that it comes down to a fairly narrow edge, as you can see. Not so narrow that it's going to be fragile. This is titanium after all, so it should be pretty durable, but it does come to a fairly narrow edge, which I like because it allows you to get under some smaller things, especially like staples and nails and stuff that are in wood. Sometimes it can be difficult with the thicker pry bar tips to get underneath them, and this one not only is easier to get underneath them, but if you need to chip away at the wood around it to get access to it, it's going to be a lot easier to do with this narrow tip than it would be with those thicker tips. The other thing that I like that they did with it is that they offset the nail pull section. So it does have a nail pull section. It's not in the front like a typical pry bar, but that gives you just a little bit more prying space and makes for a better large flathead screwdriver. And these large flatheads you can use for Phillips as well, as long as they're large enough. And again, it has a narrow enough tip that it's going to fit into most of those screws. Some of the thicker ones can struggle with that as well. The downside to that is that the depth of that nail pull isn't quite as deep, so you may have to utilize that tip a little bit more to get you started, get enough of the nail exposed to really get into that nail nick there. And so it has a little bit of a trade-off, but I do like it a little bit better than your typical nail pull. Now, moving up the tool, we have our bottle opener. Of course, what multi-tool would be complete without a bottle opener? Honestly, not something I get much use out of on these multi-tools, but I will say that I do like the ergos of this bottle opener. It has this kind of stylized look, and it looks like everything is there just kind of aesthetically, but this swoop down here is a nice placement for your thumb. There's some cutouts there that act as jimping as well. It's super grabby and offers a lot of leverage for popping those bottle caps, which don't need that much leverage admittedly, but also for utilizing that pry tip. So really, really comfortable ergos on this actually. And so what initially looked like just an aesthetic design choice actually turned out to be great for the ergos. We also have in the center here another thing that just looks like a stylized cutouts in it, but actually doubles as hex wrenches. And so we have 3 different sizes, M4 at the top, M8 in the middle, and then M10 at the bottom. Moving up from there, we do have a pocket clip. And initially from the pictures, I wasn't sure how much I would like that pocket clip. It's really made to sit in a very specific portion of your pocket, which is the very back at the bottom where it kind of attaches. And so if you put it in that spot, it works really well. It doesn't block access to your pocket. And actually most of the ring ends up getting tucked in my jeans at least. And so really what's exposed is a small portion of the ring and this jimping portion, and obviously any of the pocket clip that's on the outside of that material, but doesn't leave all that much exposed. And the nice thing is, even though most of the ring ends up tucked into the material of my pocket, you can easily just slot your finger in there and rapidly pull this out of your pocket. So it gives you that kind of tactical deployment, ready to use. You can see on that tactical ring, we do have a glass breaker, so you can use that for breaking glass. You can probably imagine some other use cases for that as well, although that is the only advertised use case of that tip on our tactical ring. And so makes for a nice rapid deployment. The ergos on here are also pretty solid if you need that kind of tight leverage for prying, although I wouldn't recommend this grip if you're prying over a hard surface like a 2x4. Say you're getting a staple or a nail over a 2x4, and those are pretty small surfaces and the section of your knuckles is going to be over a hard surface. And so if it slips out from under there, what's going to happen is your knuckles are going to slam down, get scraped up, maybe get splinters. So not a great time. I would recommend kind of a more traditional grip utilizing that slot for your thumb, and you can still get a lot of leverage but less exposure to your knuckles overall, especially if you're carrying it like this. And so just kind of something to keep in mind depending on what you're prying and what you're prying over. We do have a lanyard hole here on the back that you can use to attach a lanyard or a keychain, and again this is about 5.09 inches overall, so decent size too, where you can get a little bit more leverage than some of these shorter keychain style ones. And so really digging this one. Again, $43.58 is a great price point to try out a pry bar if you're on the fence about carrying one. So that was item number one. Oh, I should also mention a bunch of different colors of this. They sent the black stonewash. I don't know if they knew that was probably my favorite finish on these type of tools, is that black stonewash. Just great for wear and tear, and I think looks great out of the box as well. But they sent in black stonewash. There are some fun anodization colors as well. I believe a plain kind of satiny looking one as well. So a lot of different options, and all of them are at that same $43.58 price point. Moving on from there, we have the Stiletto. So we're gonna go to the other side, this tube here, kind of interesting looking packaging as well. But once again, we already have it out of the packaging, so we'll just jump right into it. It does come with this interesting looking necklace with the silver finish. It is not made out of silver. Almost feels like a really tight spring actually. So really flexible, pretty long as well. And this allows you to carry the tool on a necklace. You can also just attach it to a keychain or carry it by itself. But this is our Stiletto. And so kind of interesting, not immediately obvious what it is. I initially saw it and it kind of looks like the profile of a bit driver, although it's not a bit driver. It would make a very cool bit driver if they ever did decide to utilize this design for that, but it is not a bit driver. And so you can see here's our attachment point for your keychain or necklace. This top portion actually screws off and it acts as a key, so you can see those three prongs sticking out. I should also mention this one is in the lightning strike anodization. Unlike the PryMate, the Stiletto actually has two price points. So 5 of the configurations are the base, and they're pretty similar to what you're going to find on the PryMate. Those are $59.89. This is a more premium offering with the lightning strike anodization, and that's offered at $68.89. So about a $9 difference in price. You're getting a much fancier tool, but you are paying a little bit of a premium for that tool. So this end screws off and acts as a key. So let's get this screwed off and I can show you what it unlocks here. And so if we flip to the other side, you can see it has 3 holes that those prongs slot into and allow you to unscrew what's inside. And so we just slot these into here. If I can line it up at least. Where are we? Here we go. Line it up, unscrew it, and you don't have to unscrew it all the way with the key. You can just get it enough where you can start doing it with your fingers. You can unscrew it all the way with the key if you'd like, but once you get a certain point, you can just unscrew it by hand. And this exposes the spike or the pick portion of this tool, and that screws right back in. You'll know it's done when it stops turning, so you just keep screwing until it turns. And it sits a little bit deeper in there than when we unscrewed it. So we can also screw the key back onto the other end to act as kind of a push point for our thumb, and that slots right onto there. Once it's all configured, we're looking at about 7.25 inches overall, and we have this crazy looking spike. So the handle portion is all titanium. The spike is 5CR13 steel, and it comes to a very, very sharp point. So this is advertised for crafts and detail work. What they don't advertise it as is that it would make a really effective get off me tool or things like that. Now, the one downside to using it for that functionality, obviously they can't advertise that for legal purposes, but the other downside to utilizing it in that capacity is it does take a while to assemble. So probably takes a good 20 to 30 seconds to get it from its closed position to fully assembled. So you lose all plausible deniability that you had time to assemble this and then use it for that capacity. So probably not great, but better than nothing, obviously, as well. Really, really sharp point on there. Great for untying knots, tying some types of knots and stuff with these spikes. And so it does offer some utility, again, in the crafting and detail work. Obviously, you can use it a little bit as an ice pick as well. And just a really cool looking tool. The priciest of the bunch that we're going to look at today, again, the range is about $60 to $69 or so, depending on which one you end up going with. The materials on all of them are the same: titanium handle, 5CR13 steel on that blade or that spike, whatever you want to call it. And so material wise, it's going to be the same. You just get that fancier anodization. I do think this one is really cool. I'm into this kind of stuff. I just picked up the Winkler ice pick as well. So enjoy this stuff even with its limited utility. Up next, we have the box. Not going to go into too much detail there because that one's pretty basic packaging. But this one contains the Crowbar, and the Crowbar is the most affordable of the options we're going to look at today, also in the black stonewash. So again, I'm not sure if they knew that was my favorite finish, but they do offer this in a bunch of funner colors and stuff like that too if you're not into the black. And this is called the Crowbar because it offers the pry functionality, but it's also kind of shaped like a bird or a crow. I guess not specifically a crow, but more a bird, but obviously the Crowbar name just works perfectly here. You can see we have the beak here, the eye, and then I guess it would be a crow if it was kind of doing like a dive bomb type maneuver there. You have the hex wrenches as your wing and then the pry tip as your tail. And I guess that's a good place to start. So we have the pry functionality once again. This one has the deeper nail pull and the smaller pry tip. Still comes to a very narrow edge, and you can use these for a flathead screwdriver as well. It's just a little bit more clumsy, I think, than the clean screwdriver we have on the PryMate, but really nice to still have that functionality. Onto that wing, again, we have the hex wrenches. This one has 4 instead of 3 slots, so we go from M4 to M10, and it kind of goes up by 2 there, M4, M6, M8, M10. We have the Kansept logo here, and then that eye is actually a lanyard hole. I know it kind of looks like a bit driver, 1/4-inch bit driver. It does not slot into a 1/4-inch bit. I did try that out, so I think that's an opportunity that maybe they can look at in the future as well, as turning that into a bit driver. It just adds one more function to this tool. And again, we do get the the bottle opener functionality here on the end. You also have kind of a little point here that you can use for cutting through like tape on boxes and stuff. It's not sharp by any means, but both this tip and the pry tips work for that. With enough pressure, you can easily get through tape. This one also comes with a more traditional pocket clip, and it does look to be reversible. I haven't tried reversing it, but you can see that screw goes all the way through to the other end, and you can just swap that out. It's not inset into the metal or anything. This one is also made out of titanium and extremely affordable. This is $23.89. 4.35 inches long, about 1.79 inches wide at its widest point. Again, also made in titanium, offered in 5 different configurations. This one is designed by Rolf Helbig. I actually don't think I mentioned the designer on our Stiletto. So the Stiletto was designed by Marco Panella, and I believe he's actually designed a couple knives for Kansept as well. At least one that I'm aware of, I think it's called the Nico. It's a fixed blade that he designed. So he's a designer that they've worked with in the past. I'm not sure about Sebastian Irawan or Rolf Helbig on these other tools if they've designed knives. I just recognized the name Marco Panella and ended up looking it up. But a lot of really cool tools, pretty nice price range from about $25 to about $70, and a little bit of something for everyone. Again, they also offer those fidgets in the roller and bolt. We'll be really excited to see what they do in the future. Obviously, there's a lot of opportunities to do something like a bit driver or a pen or a flashlight, wallet, pouch, all kinds of different EDC tools, traditional multi-tools that are plier-based. And so there's a lot of different opportunities. Really excited to see where they go, especially since they are offering most of them at pretty budget prices. Even this more expensive one is pretty budget for what you're paying. The one that I got from Winkler is not titanium. It's not as fancy looking, and I paid a lot more for for it. So even the higher end stuff is still very on the affordable side. So pretty cool. Again, excited to see what they do with this new lineup. Let me know what you think of these tools down in the comments below. Check them out with the link in the description. As usual, if you enjoyed the video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, joining the channel as a member, or checking out some of my other videos. All help the channel out a ton, and I hope you have a great one. Take care.